Hello, welcome back to Search with Sean, and this is another special episode all about celebrating women in tech SEO. And we've done one of these shows previously, and I'll link to that, so do go and check that out. But yeah, I've got 4 great guests today. And if in case you didn't know, but Women in Tech SEO is a global community dedicated to supporting and empowering professionals working in SEO. So yeah, do go and check them out. Especially great newsletter. So yeah, one of the best, I think. So yeah, do check that out. And today's all about just celebrating the community and kind of just, understanding more about it and kind of getting viewpoints of some of the members. And I must point out again, I did on the last one, but this isn't like a paid gig. I'm not getting any sort of royalties or anything like that. And also, it's just, also you are part of any other communities and want to reach out. I'm looking to do more of these type of videos, and also you got any sort of interesting data sets or case studies, I'm always interested to hear about those as well. So yeah, do get in touch. So yeah, what we're going to do, go around to each guest and just kind of get their sort of viewpoints on things, and we're kind of open the floor to some more general SEO chat. So Dena, do you want to kick us off and go over your bits?
Yeah, so I'm Dena, SEO lead at Tequity, which is a web development agency. So I work on mostly e-commerce sites. So I have standalone SEO clients, as well as I work quite closely with the developers just to make sure that SEO is really integrated throughout the builds as well. So it's sort of a mix of like strategy, technical work, and sort of creativity as well.
Nice. And what would you say about kind of your experiences within the community, and if you've got any kind of cool like experiences that have helped you out or anything?
Yeah, so I've been a member of Women in Tech SEO for probably about 4 years now. And I really enjoy it because it really does feel like a community, especially with the Slack channel. Like people are always sharing sort of tactics, we're offering advice. Everyone's like really helping each other out. And as well, like the connections that I've made, especially through like not just the Women in Tech SEO conference, but meetups at other conferences as well. It's been really like invaluable, like having sort of a like built-in sort of support network, if you like, especially for sort of, I went to Brighton SEO for the first time in April, and I got a community ticket through Women in Tech SEO, and I wouldn't have been able to go otherwise. And also just having all of those women there that maybe I'd met at a previous conference or through sort of the Slack or WhatsApp groups that were set up, it makes you feel like you're part of something, and that there's people there that you can sort of speak to, and sort of it puts your mind at rest a little bit.
Yeah, awesome. And I don't stop hearing about this Slack channel. Sounds pretty awesome. What about yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Corina. I'm an independent SEO consultant based in Zurich. That's in the German-speaking area of Switzerland. I specialize in SEO for finance brands. I've been in-house previously, leading SEO at a bank and a tech company. I do also co-organize SEO Nerds Switzerland, which is a meetup for SEOs in Switzerland, and a WordPress meetup, a local WordPress meetup. And I love Women in Tech SEO. That's why we're all here. I was just checking today, I've been in the community in the Slack since 3 years. I remember when I joined, I was completely overwhelmed, and I was just like thinking all the time, I wish I would have known about this community earlier, because there were so many instances where most of the time I was the only SEO in-house in a certain company, and I just would have wished to have like somebody external to double check a strategy or an idea. And this is exactly what I do in Women in Tech SEO. Like if I have something I think is right, but I'm not 100% sure, then I go and double check. And it's just, it feels like having like 5,000 people in my back. So it's really, I love it.
Awesome. Yeah. You're saying similar things. So what others have said, that's great.
So I'm Kavi Kardos. I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm the director of SEO experience for Gartner Digital Markets. So we're kind of an interesting subset of Gartner. which is obviously a much larger company, but digital markets is focused on software selection and helping connect buyers with the best possible software for their needs. So we run sites like Capterra, Software Advice, GetApp, and UpCity, and then also the international CCTLDs for each of those sites as well. So we're sort of a little smaller division within the larger Gartner family. And I knew I was going to have to think about how long I've been in this community, and I truly don't know. It's been a long time, but I don't know how many years. I would guess maybe about 6 or 7 at this point. But just like Corina said, I wish I had known about it sooner. I think that's what everyone says. When I started this role about 3 months ago, one of the first things I did was invite my entire team, which is mostly women, to the Women in Tech SEO Slack channel. I think it's the best thing I've ever done for my career, honestly. I've found jobs through this community, speaking gigs, writing gigs, podcasts like this, all kinds of things. So it's really helped me build my network, but also my personal brand as an SEO, trying to get out there more in the world. So it's been just amazing.
Yeah, it definitely works, because I put in a message about this one and planning to do one show, and I got such a good response on doing at least 3. So at this stage, so yeah, it's cool, and it definitely works. Alyssa, what about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Alyssa. I'm based in New Jersey in the US. I'm an independent SEO consultant and focus on working with early to mid-stage healthcare startups. So focusing on telehealth services in all different types of niches. And yeah, I've been part of Women in Tech SEO for, I think, about 3 years. I've been to 2 of the in-person events here in Philadelphia, and both times I've left with in-person friends, which has always been a really fun experience. People that I've gotten to meet up with occasionally in the city that don't live too far from me. So that in-person aspect is definitely super enjoyable. I've also started co-hosting the freelancer meetup, which we have once a month. And that's something that's turned into just something I truly look forward to each and every month. People come and share what they're facing when it comes to freelancing or working independently. And we are able to share insights and learnings. And it feels like after every call, people feel encouraged and they feel more confident in their work. And I do too, because I've only been freelancing full time for about a year. So it's become a space that is really invaluable to me. I share very similar sentiments to what everyone else said about the group. And I can't imagine my career without it at this point, because the encouragement, like going on Slack and being able to ask questions and have sort of a gut check. I've also gotten on calls with people to walk through some difficult situations that other people have had. And they also have an incredible mentorship program as well, that I've participated in twice, once as a mentor and once as a mentee. So I can't say enough positive things about it. And they're always growing. So I kind of always know that like there will be new opportunities and new things to look forward to as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And yeah, so I guess obviously some great, stories there about the community and how it's helped everyone. And yeah, like I say, similar to what I was saying. So like I said, that Slack channel seems to be an amazing source. So yeah, that sounds cool. And if anyone, if you're interested in getting involved, I will put all the links and that in the description. So, you can go and check it out and sign up if you haven't already, and take advantage of the stuff that was chatted about just then, like the Slack channel and that. So I'm going to, open this up. It'll be, anyone could jump in terms of like general SEO stuff going on right now. And it is like a crazy place right now, the SEO world. So in terms of what should people actually be focusing on in SEO right now, because there's so many mixed messages going on, in especially if you go on LinkedIn, and what should they be ignoring? Obviously, it might be the fact that they ignore LinkedIn, but anyone's open to talk at this point.
Maybe check the advice you follow on LinkedIn, like check who's behind the advice. I would not sign off, ignore LinkedIn. To me, that's a very good source of information at the moment. But like check if there's data behind the quotes or the advice, check if the person has done some testing or if it's just some kind of information rephrased in other words.
I agree.
One being loud doesn't mean they're right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that like you said, the data is really important. Like, don't just like take someone's word at face value that, oh, I've done this and it's worked. If there's no data behind it, then you don't know that for sure. And I think there's so much noise at the moment around so many different things that, like, really, I think we should concentrate a lot on the basics. Like, Google is still over 90% of search worldwide. And sort of getting the fundamentals right, you know, site structure, content quality, on-page optimizations, like that's still as important as it has ever been.
Yeah, all of you, like kind of what, you know, like I just said, but if you had to really nail down like 2 or 3 things that, like you say, like the fundamentals, but any, like you go in greater detail, like what 1 or 2 things would you really be working on, or are you working on now to really make sure that you're ready for this new search world, whatever that means?
One thing I'm doing, and I'm not sure if it's which is working, but I'm not sure if it's like best practice, is I do again list articles, which it's something I did when I don't know, 4 or 5 years back when skyscraper was a big thing. So at the moment, I'm doing a lot of SEO for myself, for my brand, for my business. So I was doing like list articles about SEO agencies in Zurich, SEO freelancer in Zurich, and it was picked up pretty nicely in ChatGPT. So this is something, adding to what Dena said, keep doing SEO as we did in the last years. This is the one specific thing I added to my tool stack, to my practice.
Yeah, I think it's really important, like Dena said, to focus on the basics. I think as much as is changing right now, the fundamentals of what SEO is meant to do have not changed. And ultimately, we're trying to maximize our visibility in the surfaces that people use to search, which means Google, but it also means YouTube, Reddit, you know, anywhere that people go to search for information is a search engine. So I think our job encompasses all of that. And understanding that there are, and, you know, including LLMs too, understanding that there are multiple surfaces now that we need to be optimizing for is the new stuff. But the part about how to do that and how to make your content discoverable and good for people and good for the internet is pretty much unchanged, I think, over the years.
One thing that I'm continuing to focus on with my clients is really making sure that their website clearly depicts exactly what they offer. So, like I said, I work with healthcare companies, so and also quite niche services. So you could think like dermatology that works with like specific health conditions, or very specific mental health conditions as well. Just some examples. So really making sure that when we create content, it's niche. We're not kind of covering all different types of topics, because what I've noticed is by doing this, we are more likely to come up in different SERP results like AI overviews. People also ask box. And I don't yet have data to back this up, but anecdotally, ChatGPT results and other AI search engines as well. So like I'd done that before there was such like an AI surge, but I'm noticing that if we can kind of niche down and really target what exactly people should search to discover them, it's working quite well. So, you know, the way that like I kind of find these keywords is doing the searches myself. You might not be able to use like Ahrefs or SEMrush to find these keywords because they're not exactly high volume, but what matters is that when the right person searches for it, they find you. So that's the approach that I've been taking, and it's definitely been worthwhile for me.
Yeah, it was interesting because, like, you know, you talk about different platforms and stuff, and I've just interviewed Crystal Carter around the AI search side of it, and you know, there are different things that work for traditional Google results versus the new AI results. So I think people are getting confused, like, where should I spend my time? Should I spend my time trying to focus on getting that AI traffic, or so focus on getting that traditional, the traditional stuff. And obviously there seems to be a lot of overlap. So do you have any thoughts on that in terms of like, so do you actually go out your way to try and obviously, like Corina, you're talking about the listicles, which seems to like work, but what's your thoughts on that?
I know Kevin Indig just put out a study about this, and there's been obviously quite a lot of chatter about this recently, but his study and some other data that I think AMSIV put together has shown more recently that the AI overviews thing and like being visible in ChatGPT, being visible on all these LLM surfaces is good. It's not hurting you, but it's kind of this shiny new object that people are getting a bit distracted by. It seems like, according to that data, at least, people are still, people may be reading the AI overview or going to ChatGPT, but at the end of the day, they're still engaging with those traditional organic results and finding you in that way. And that data from AMSIV showed that the conversion rates, I think, unless you're in e-commerce specifically, conversion rates are not higher in AIOs and LLMs. So I think it's a matter of like, are you optimizing for this because it's the shiny new thing, or are you optimizing for this because it's genuinely getting you high quality traffic? And I think that's a really important question that people need to be asking themselves right now. If you're getting traffic from ChatGPT or from AIOs or something like that, that's, arriving on your site, reading an article and then leaving, that's not really, or, if you're getting cited in the AIO and then falling victim to zero click and no one's visiting you at all, that's not really very worthwhile either. So, I mean, except for brand building, I suppose. But at the end of the day, I'd rather have someone buying something from my site than just reading an AI overview and calling it a day. So,
yeah, I think a lot of it is to do with intent. Like, if people are searching with a commercial intent, they're still more than likely going to use Google. And so, like, for me, working purely in e-commerce, I am incorporating some aspects of optimization for sort of AI search. Like, for example, what's been working quite well is I've been adding FAQ content to PLPs, sort of with the below the fold content. But I'm ensuring that the intent behind some of these FAQs are actually sort of pre-purchase. So it is people seeking information sort of along the buyer journey, and it's not just, what is X, which I've seen some people do. And while it can get you sort of that visibility, again, it's not going to convert.
Yeah, and I don't think it helps either with, I think this is where confusion comes into play, where Google are putting out certain bits of data and saying certain things. And then case studies come out from people in the industry who most of the time they're quite trustworthy and kind of going against what Google is stating. So I think people are like, I should believe Google because they're like our, overlords or whatever. And then, but these people are kind of saying that's not the case. And obviously people look in their own search consoles and stuff and see certain trends as well. So they're like, am I just doing something completely wrong? Or is everyone seeing it? Obviously that's where community comes into play. I guess that you've got that sort of community to bounce off ideas and information. In terms of like, it's going to be interesting as well, isn't it? Because you're saying that people, and it does seem like people, this trend seems to be continuing. This is what Crystal brought up in terms of people go on places like ChatGPT and they find out, they might compare brands and compare, to see who's good at what, but then they will go to Google and do another search to kind of back that up. But when Google switches, and it seems very likely it's going to happen soon, that AI mode is going to be the default. How do people think that's going to mix things up?
I'm not sure if they're switching so soon, to be honest. Because
the other thing that I think has been pointed out is they are saying AI mode is coming, it's going to be the default. I don't know that necessarily means it's going to look the same way as we know about AI mode looking today. I know that there's quite a lot of fatigue around AIOs and LLMs in general going around right now. And I think to switch entirely to AI mode would result in potentially a disappointment in their user base that they're not ready to deal with. So I think if anything, yes, they may make that switch, but I don't think it's going to look the way that it looks today. So I could be wrong. Of course, we say things, big predictions all the time that end up being wrong, which I'm comfortable with, but that's my prediction for now anyway.
How would you want it to look if you could? I know they're testing some stuff in Google Labs. So how would you prefer it to look if you want in terms of, if they switch tomorrow, what would you want to see?
I don't want a search experience that's dictated entirely by one company. And I know that the algorithm has always done that for us. The Google search algorithm tells us what we should see in terms of organic results. So to some extent, that has always been true. But when the information that they aggregate is fed through a single lens and then repeated back to us as if it's truth, that makes me extremely nervous for what I'm able to find and just for the future of the internet in general. So non-existent, is that a good answer? That's sure what I'd like it to look like.
Anyone else?
I think for me personally, I've thought about this a lot as someone like as an SEO, but like I actually kind of like AI overviews personally when I can just see a summary of what I'm looking for, especially when there's a lot of different perspectives, which I know isn't really like maybe a common thought because like traditionally people don't like, it seems like on LinkedIn, for example, people don't like them. But I know for me, like when I need something, I'm like, I just want to see what are the options. So that's why I personally also feel excited when my clients are in AI overviews, because I'm thinking like, and I'm talking like their company is mentioned as a solution when someone is looking for something, because I'm thinking like, it's the first thing that people see when they're searching. So I think if that were the direction, like the next phase, then I guess like would hope that it's still very easy to read and that also there are ways to fairly optimize your website so that you can get in those results. Not that everyone thinks it's fair necessarily like to optimize your website right now for search, but tactics to build trust with users, build topical authority and experience in all of those different aspects as well, especially for healthcare, because I just know, because that's the niche that I work in almost exclusively, that there are so many things that you want to make sure about your website so that you feel comfortable even posting it, and that if it ranks, people can trust the information. So I hope that portion doesn't change, and that, you still have to kind of check those boxes so that it ranks, but then also that users can actually like trust it and feel comfortable reading it and taking the advice if there is any.
Yeah, I agree with Alyssa. I also like the AI overviews if they just would not be so long. Sometimes I feel like they're like expanding. So a bit more concise, and as long as they show links so I can kind of double check like the source, that for me is extremely important. If I don't like on ChatGPT, if there's no source, it sounds good, but you all have to remind yourself, like fact check it. So if there's a link, then kind of this, you're reminded of this easily. And an ideal search experience would be without sponsored ads, but we all know that this is not going to happen. And this leads me also to like a big question mark. Like I expect some sponsored placement within AI overviews or within other LLMs soon, because I'm like, if it's been so important for Google in the last decades, so there must be this something to come. Because they need to make money.
Yeah, it will happen. As you say, like Google only do this free search so they can bring people to then get the paid activity out of them. It's interesting about AI overviews because basically I've had, someone in my team come to me. I work in healthcare as well, and they put in a query, AI overview comes up, we're included, but there's some misinformation about what actually we do. We do it to a degree, but not in the way that it put it across. And when I investigate it further using ChatGPT to look into it, I know it's probably not the best route, but I was trying to investigate perhaps why it was coming up with this information. And it looks like it can mix and match some of the data from different sources, they were trusted sources, but they were kind of painting a different picture to what actually the truth is, because they're not taking it from just one source. They're kind of mixing information together. And that's sort of the problem. And then when I try and replicate the search query, because I'm not in the same place, the same, search history, etc., I'm getting a different answer anyway. So this is the kind of problem. And when it was kind of like first launched AI overviews and everyone was finding all these really, out there sort of answers, and Google said they fixed them and they did this, but it's really hard everyone's getting different answers based on all these different factors. So it's going to be hard to kind of squish that kind of hallucination or misinformation to a degree, isn't it?
I mean, I think if we integrate something similar to what you have with Google business profiles at the moment, where you can suggest an edit, something like that for AI mode, I think would be really helpful, because there is if people use AI on a daily basis, you will get misinformation. So I think having the ability to be able to change that or just suggest an edit. I mean, Google already does it for sort of map listings and other things, so it would be quite an easy thing to implement.
You can argue with AI mode now. If you see an answer or not AI mode necessarily, but I'm sure you can do it in there too, but I meant in AI overviews, you can give it a thumbs down right at the bottom of the listing and say, this is incorrect. Actually, here's the correct information. As long as you send evidence or a link or something that disproves what their answer is, they're supposed to take that into account and work it into their algorithm.
Yeah, I've been doing it in the other LLMs, giving thumbs up, giving thumbs down. But I'm every time I'm doing it, I'm like, am I just losing now a split second of my life for nothing? But it feels like, okay, at least I contributed something.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think Crystal was saying in the interview actually that feedback on ChatGPT, for example, does really influence actually how your chats go. So yeah, I mean, I've done it a bit, but I'm a bit like you, Corina. I'm a bit like, I don't know. But they actually listen. When I have talks with and listen to Google, they do say they do pay attention to it. They do.
That's please.
But I do agree that they could make a bigger thing of it, especially in the early days. They didn't really get. I know they had it in beta and they were getting the labs and they were getting feedback from. But, there's feedback from people working SEO, and then there's feedback from the general public. We've obviously heavily focused on Google because it's so dominant. But what other sort of platforms and stuff are people looking at in terms of because we know because of the AI stuff coming in, these other channels are really influencing how you're seen and in terms of what they're putting out there about you. So, yeah, is anyone focused on any other sort of channels and how are they going about it? Reddit, YouTube, whatever it is.
We're trying to. I'm trying to get budget for that right now. So, when you look at the way the SERPs are diversifying now, it's pretty clear, if you have the capability to make video and emphasize community, it seems like there's definitely value in that, and which makes sense. I think, people see AI in search results and the pendulum sort of swings the other way. And now they want to start seeing information from people as well. Alongside that, they want the first person perspective, which is what a lot of video is. And then obviously what communities provide. So Reddit is tough to break into, obviously, but I think community in general is a good idea for brands that can sustain it. And video too, it doesn't take a huge amount of production value to put a little front facing short YouTube video together. That says, here's my first person perspective on whatever your topic is. So yeah, I think that's at least worth experimenting with for a lot of brands.
Reddit is something that we're looking into, but like you say, it's so difficult to sort of break into. But it's very, just sort of dipping my toes in the water at the minute. But what I'm seeing is the revival of a lot of sort of forums, like very niche specific forums, not necessarily on Reddit. And that's something that I've been exploring and working with some of my clients on within their niches, because, I mean, it's something that we would have seen maybe 20 years ago, but now people are, again, posting on sort of these. For example, one of my clients is sells pilot supplies. So I'm looking on all of these forums that surprisingly pilots are still writing on. So just sort of starting to contribute a little bit in those spaces and, maybe it isn't just Reddit. There is sort of other user-generated forums that you can look into as well. And I guess it's just worth speaking with the clients in those niches to see where they may lie, if it's actually relevant for them, and if it's not.
I don't do like YouTube SEO or such, but what I've been putting more emphasis on is digital PR. Again, like, well, what used to be HARO, we say in German, quote the journalists. This is something I do again, trying to get in external citations, industry news.
I'm doing the same as Corina. Right now, focusing more on digital PR, which I haven't really done too much in the past, but I have seen quite a bit of success with it in terms of growing the authority of a website, especially if they're early on, like meaning like they have a newer website or a newer just presence in general. So yeah, pretty much same approach.
Yeah, I think that's going to be heavily important. I mean, obviously it's clear that mentions and from reputable publishers and sources are going to be even more important than it was perhaps previously, even though it was obviously very important in the old days as such. But, it does seem like that's the case. What about, this is a thing that keeps coming up in my chats is around brand management, because before we wasn't that involved in it, customer reviews and obviously being mentioned, but in like maybe negative ways in different places. And, just that sort of out of date information around the internet about your company or service or whatever. How involved should SEOs be in that now? And how do you go around that? Because I know, like, if you work freelance, you may not have like the access to the people who are doing that at the company, or maybe no one's doing it at the company. If you're in-house, there might be other teams that kind of own that. And so, yeah, how do you reckon SEO should go around?
I actually would argue that it's quite important, even if you're a consultant or freelancer and you don't have access to other teams. Like, I would actually, like, I guess it really depends on the niche or like the area that you're focused on. But for example, like I don't focus on e-commerce necessarily, but I do have an e-commerce client, and that was a big project that we worked on together. Because if you're seeing in the Google Search Console or whatever tool that you're using, that if you're seeing that people are looking for reviews, of course, and they can't find them, especially from your website, and they're maybe going to Reddit, or sometimes like, when like an external website will kind of do a roundup of similar products, and like they're kind of controlling the narrative over your brand, which of course doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but they can like fabricate information, and maybe they're being sponsored by a competitor. There's like, it's just not always a level playing field. So I would absolutely like encourage, if I'm seeing that in this case, that we need to create a reviews page. It could be using a third-party website, in my opinion, using like Trustpilot, because then you can aggregate the real reviews from customers. But I also think it's important, though, to have it on your website as well. Not so that you can like change the reviews or anything like that, but because that's part of your website, and you can use that page and edit the page, meaning you can add context, you can add FAQs and link to it from other pages on your website. But that was like a huge win for us when we created that page, and we noticed a lot more people were landing on the website when they created it, because they didn't have to scroll to like maybe the bottom of the page where their homepage was ranking, and that's just because it had the brand name in it. So I do think like it, not maybe for every website, because sometimes like you just don't see people searching for reviews, maybe especially if they're very early on, because there's not like, people don't really know of the brand anyway. But that's where I definitely think it's worth taking a look into the data and seeing what's being searched.
Yeah.
Internal education is key here. So if the reviews don't sit within the SEO team, but with the customer success team, then I guess it's important to educate them that it is important for search as well. It is important for the company image, and for instance, not replying to reviews. Like, we should reply to reviews, also to positive reviews, include keywords, etc. Because it is something we know, but it's not by nature. The customer success team by nature doesn't know it, for instance. And then also I've been on a project where we were kind of brainstorming and putting projects in place, how to get reviews from the end customer, because depending if it's not an e-commerce, it might be more difficult to get finally the reviews. So sharing the voice beyond the marketing department, I think, is very important.
Yeah, and Alyssa, you were saying that, hosting that, owning that review platform on your own site is really important. I totally agree. Another thing that allows you to do is just have, like you were saying, have that data in-house rather than having to go search for it elsewhere. And knowing what they're saying about you, knowing what problems they have, or even knowing what things they're shouting from the rooftops because they're super happy about it with your product, that allows you to create content that emphasizes the good stuff and that addresses the bad stuff too, right? So not only can you pass that on to your product team and say, we need to improve this, this, and this because people keep complaining about it, but if someone's saying, I can't figure out how to do X, Y, Z, great, there's an article you should probably write in. So yeah, totally agree with you there.
Yeah, I think something that's really important is it's like reviews as a whole on the site are really important, but trying to get those individual product reviews is sometimes really a struggle. So working with maybe some of the email team on how we're approaching some of the customer base on how to get individual product reviews, and maybe just educating the client on how important those are, why they build trust, and especially with sort of people looking for comparative content through sort of AI search, those individual product reviews are going to become increasingly important, and building upon those with sort of our own internal content, like comparison content, Q&A content, things like that, just to sort of ensure you've got an all-encompassing sort of, when people are searching around this specific thing, are they going to get the information they need pre-purchase?
Yeah, all great points, and definitely the review. I think if you control the narrative, you're in a lot more a better place than if you let someone else do it, of course. And I just put some notes in terms of like the digital PR side. I think is really interesting. If you, and the internal, it all kind of ties in, but the internal education, like, now the things have slightly changed in terms of like brand mentions used to be just good generally, and a link, which was awesome. We all love that, but now it's about the context, because these things are getting more intelligent. So educating, for example, the PR team around when you are putting out press releases, explaining a bit more who you are, what you do, why you do it, especially around the products, that context around things, we want a link, but we also need that context around it. The thing is, SEOs, we can't do everything. So we need to rely on and lean on these other teams, but they don't know the impact they're having on our side of things just as much as as anyone else. So we need to kind of educate in terms of like where search is going and how they are impacting the search and what they can do to kind of boost that further. And I think we said before, but the consistencies across the internet, it's going to play a big part, because I've used the example a few times on here, but say you're optimizing a local search page and you're doing some like searches to see how it's being brought up, and you have an article back in like 2014 about it shutting down, that can impact results going forward. So you have to really kind of do a little like look around the archives to see if there's any like misleading information. And just on that, I've used again, not sponsored by ChatGPT, but I use it quite often. But ChatGPT, the agents, and if you go in and ask it, you probably do it other ways, but I was just using the agents to kind of go and explore kind of where things are being mentioned around certain service locations or whatever. And and then that's a good way of kind of picking out sort of those inconsistencies across the net. But those are going to be more important than ever. And in terms of that, we have touched upon it, but just to finish off, I guess, from every, where do you see the future search going?
I think that search is just going to become even more hyper personalized. Like before you even get any results, that search is going to know sort of where you live. I mean, it already does. So if you're looking for a product for your car, it's going to already know what car you drive. It's going to know what type of roads you're driving on, etc. So just sort of making sure that a lot of the content is on your site is sort of personalized to, this is who this is for, these are use cases for this, and really like you're answering sort of your questions before they ask them in a way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more important now to target your specific customer that is most likely to convert or do you some good than to cast the widest net possible like we used to. We're not really trying to bring in all the eyeballs anymore. We're trying to bring in that specific customer that wants you and needs you and is going to keep coming back. So, having a bunch of people arrive on your site to read an article and then bouncing away, there's some use in that, but where your money is going to come from is, like Dena said, finding who that person is, understanding what they need, and really targeting them specifically. And I think that, like I was saying before, I think that's true in Google search, whatever form it takes, but I think it's also true on all these other platforms that are starting to come into our purview too. YouTube, Reddit, other forums, social media, everywhere that people search for things. I think that's going to continue to change and we have to be ready for all of them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of those points as well. I also think, and this has been true for a while, but I think it'll continue to be true, is to really prioritize giving your customers a really positive experience when they convert, whether it's through search or through another channel like paid ads or, referrals or anything like that. Because the way that it ties back to search is that people love to talk about it. Like, that's what we're talking about. Like, they love to go on Reddit and share, like, this is like my experience and you should avoid this, or like you should, like absolutely use this product. Or maybe it's in like other groups as well. Like they write roundups on their blogs and like that's kind of circulated, or in a newsletter or anything like that. Even though that's more of maybe a PR side, I do think it's important to provide that good customer experience, because that will then come back to, it's like a whole circle, right? Like if people talk about it, then the new customers are looking and they find that information as well. So I think providing that positive experience will continue to be really important as well. And then also impacts our job as an SEO.
In terms of devices, you mentioned, Sean, I believe we keep with mobile phone and desktop like goggles. I do not believe like there's been a project around since years. I think it didn't really make the cut. So I believe there will not be too much involvement in terms of where people look. I do think that LLMs still have more market share to get, and I think it will shift towards there, because like right now, maybe our generation is using LLMs and maybe a bit older and all the young people. But if I look like at my parents, 70, 60 plus, they still are on Google. They are not yet on ChatGPT. So I believe there's still some market share. Like the innovation curve, the bell curve, maybe it's now right at the top, but there's still some market share to get. So my prediction is it will, like AI optimization will be continued job.
Yeah, I think it's great points. I think I agree. I think it's going to be super interesting how personalized it gets. I mean, I've read on past sort of news episodes around Apple, I think it was, there's certain patterns out there basically trying to learn from even just your facial expressions and your tone of voice and your eye contacts and everything like that to try and determine what you want and when you want it and stuff. And obviously there's like whole things of like the Neuralink and stuff around your thoughts and stuff. So I'm sure things are going to get pretty weird in the future. But yeah, it's definitely, I agree. Like it seems to be a common thing that you need to properly focus on actually the user intent and make sure you're capturing that. Like you say, gone are the days, and you said it earlier, Dana, about the FAQs, like what is a washing machine? I mean, you're not going to get any coverage from that anymore. AI overviews and that have got that covered. You need to actually focus on what the people are asking about those washing machines or whatever. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, user-generated content. If you can generate that and get that on your socials, on your website, personalized to what you do, I think that's obviously going to be a bit of a, an advantage if you can get that. But yeah, anything else from anyone in terms of like the future or what they think is going to happen, or we'll wrap it up.
Join Women in Tech SEO.
Join Women in Tech for all marginalized genders as well. If you identify as non-binary or anything under the sun that you consider a marginalized gender, please join. WomenInTechSEO.com is the website.
That's a great point. And it's a good closing point there. So I just thank you all for joining me today. And if anyone wants to find out more, all the stuff will be in the description. But thanks all for joining me, and really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.